Well, good afternoon everybody. It's Tuesday the 22nd of March. It's not often I actually sit down and make a video on anything and comment on video on what's going on. But I think over the last 2 weeks there has been so much happening in this country that needs comment, and comment is not being made in the areas where it should be. Let's start off with a very basic situation. We've had the government accusing Russia of poisoning in Salisbury. Now, I am absolutely certain that the government has information that it is not giving out to the general public, and that is very understandable. And there must be something behind this that gives them the ability to state that. But I am concerned that they don't seem to be willing to work with the Russian government in order to allow them to see some of the information that they actually have and have developed. And they've been very, very quick to point the finger. Following on from that has been the huge media focus on Salisbury and the poisoning there. It completely swallowed every other piece of news apart from the death of Ken Dodd. Specifically, it covered over the news of what had been going on in Telford with the child abuse there. Now, we knew that there was problems in Telford, and some people were given prison sentences for raping young girls. Prison sentences that seem to have been reduced from the 22 years, so that the leader of the gang is likely to be out in less than 5. It also seems that the extent of the abuse was much greater than was previously thought. This is a major cause for concern. We also had, at the same time, National Child Abuse Day, and we had the Home Secretary standing up and saying this is totally unacceptable. The corollary to that she didn't say seems to be, unless it's being perpetrated on an industrial scale on British girls in this country. Or, of course, unless it happens to be FGM, in which case we won't take any action against anybody who commits this crime. Now, there have been some people who've been willing to stand up and be counted on this and say it's wrong, to point out where the problems actually do lie. But that is now hate speech. And it's very worrying when you read the missive that was put out by the Metropolitan Police, where hate speech now can be something that you're thinking about. If you've done something which somebody feels is against them, they can report you for a hate crime, and the police can now take action against you if they believe the thought behind what was done was criminal, even if what was done wasn't criminal. Now, this is taking me back to when I was at school reading through George Orwell's 1984. It's the thought police. What has happened to freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of association? It doesn't seem to exist any longer in this country if you are the wrong people. Now, it's very obvious that there is a concerted effort to shut down anything that is a right-wing or patriotic view of this country. We have Antifa and Momentum with masked thugs turning up at debates to stop the debate happening because they don't like one of the speakers. Now, the whole point of debate is that you have opposing views, but it seems you can only put one view now in this country. Political correctness, hate crime, and other rules that have been put in place make sure you cannot say anything which is contrary to the establishment doctrine. That is not a free country. I should be able to criticise my religion. I am Christian with a small c. I'm Church of England. Now, my church was set up for one reason only, and that was to allow Henry VIII to have his way with his new girlfriend and divorce his current wife. It's not exactly a strong and stable base on which to base a serious religious organisation. And it does make me laugh when you get senior people in the C of E standing up a few years ago and being critical of Charles getting married to Camilla. You know, how dare the future monarch marry a divorcee? Well, I'm sorry guys, but look at the only reason for setting up the Church of England, to enable precisely that. So, you know, but I can be critical of the Church of England. I could be critical of the Old Testament and Judaism. I could be critical of the Sikhs if I wish, although I can't think of a reason to be critical of them offhand. And any other religion should be open to criticism and ridicule. If you think something is ridiculous, you should have the right, and we always did have the right, to parody it, to show it up for the stupidity that you think it might be. Can you do that now? I remember a number of years ago, there was a lot of criticism and angst from the Christian community when Monty Python produced Life of Brian. Could you imagine that same film being done about a different Middle Eastern religion? No, I can't either. Why? Why are we so scared of allowing criticism of something that should be open to criticism? Because if we cannot criticize a religion, and we cannot criticise a lack of action by the authorities, if we can't be critical of government, if we can't be critical of the royal family or the European Union, what sort of world are we starting to live in? The UK was known as the bastion of free speech, where you could put any view you wished, and that's how it should be. We are an educated, hopefully reasonably intelligent democracy, and in that, nothing, absolutely nothing, should be sacred that we cannot criticise, we cannot question, we cannot ask about its validity. Because if we can't do that, if we can't think for ourselves and question, we are being controlled. Our mind is being controlled, our views are being controlled, and we are not free. But you look at government statements, you look at the Brexit agreement that's been given, and you think, what on earth do they think we are? How stupid do they think we are? Because they have delivered nothing, absolutely nothing, that goes along with the vote that was held in 2016. The vote was to leave. The Article 50 triggering was delayed so that we had things in place, we were told, before we entered that 2-year transition period, which ends in March next year. Now we're told we actually need a transition period. But hold on, that was the whole point of the delay in triggering Article 50, because once Article 50 was triggered, we had 2 years before we left. The 2-year transition period. The facts are, of course, that the government did not prepare for Brexit, the government did not want Brexit, and the people at senior levels benefit from us being in the EU. And it's very noticeable when certain senior politicians, and I'll pick out from here Michael Heseltine, are interviewed, they are not asked by anybody what they personally get out of being in the EU. Now, for Mr. Heseltine, he gets a large amount of funding through the EU. Mr. Mandelson has his pension. The Kinnocks have their pensions worth a lot of money. And the EU will not allow anyone who's in receipt of an EU pension to be critical of the EU. They might lose their pension if they are. Now, this is never brought out. This is never raised up as an issue. I'm a local councillor. If I go to a meeting at the local council and I have a pecuniary interest in that subject, I have to announce it and I have to excuse myself from the debate and the vote. And that is right. People should be able to question. The BBC should start to question. And we should get the truth. Because that is what being an open, free democracy is all about. And it's being taken away from us.